Obviously, if you would have told me going into this weekend, take 2 out of 3 against Kentucky, I would have been really excited about it. So a good weekend. I think for me, it was just Sunday. We have one of these games, it seems like a weekend that I could just pull my hair out. So I think that's where we need to grow up a little bit and get better. Our focus needs to be better. Our first inning pitching-wise has to be better. And they know it. And they're fully capable of doing it. And that's part of, I guess, my frustration. And so just got to work through things. I mean, winners will keep working and working on how to get better at their craft, and programs that go in a different direction will kind of give up. And I know what we are capable of doing, and we're going to move forward. So excited to get back on the field again, obviously tonight against Lamar and tomorrow against Incarnate Word. And for me, it's just a great opportunity to kind of work on some of the things we need to work on, but doing it in live situation. So that'll be good. And obviously we have a big weekend ahead of us, but love to get through these next 2 days.
So you talk about the frustration a little bit with that one game a weekend, and when it's something like that where it's so fixable, but it just seems like it gets you every, like you said, once a weekend, every couple games. How do you go about working on that or making adjustments in practice and in these midweek games?
Well, I think you start to reflect back, and you have to honestly, like myself, look at myself. Our pitchers have to look at ourselves. Our defense has to look. Like, you have to figure out, like, what are we doing? Are we doing everything we possibly can to get prepared to be successful in that first inning? We made 6 errors in that first inning. I mean, 4 of them go on the books. 2 of them, if you know the game, know that there's errors. And so for me, that's a lack of concentration. That's a lack of focus. That's a lack of a lot of things. And so I dove into a dark hole yesterday, and Tyler pulled some stats for me, and just, what I do is basically go back to the drawing board. It's like, here's the facts, here's where we're at pre-conference, what were some of the things that were making us successful. We are giving up, I feel like our first inning, and I'm going to talk pitching a lot, and it's not just the pitchers, but that's kind of my area, is just we're giving up the long ball and we're walking batters a lot that first inning. And so for me, when I look at film, we are really, like, we're either on the plate, there's a lot of white, or we're making non-competitive pitches. We're not really kind of living in between. And I think for me, that's what we know this, like, that's where we're their best. So we have to go back to being who we are, pitching edge pitches, right, instead of getting all white or non-competitive. And that to me is a simple fix. And the fact of, like, getting our heads right. So we'll go back to we have some breathing things. We're going to change up kind of our bullpens, how we're getting ready for games. Some things, obviously I called a couple people, picked brains, I don't want to keep doing this over and over again. And so I think, that's what you do. You just got to keep working, and something might work for one pitcher, but it's not going to work for another. So I got to get one dialed in, and then I'll figure out how we're going to get the other one dialed in. So I wish I had the magic potion. I would be making a lot of money if I did. Everybody would love it. But I think, overall, it's just, continuing to work and tinker, I think, is important.
On the hitting side,
that's been great. Yeah.
I guess how do you try to, not limit the upside of, when you have some of the games like you did this weekend, but also maybe try to, and I know whoever's pitching for them has a factor in too, but
yeah,
I guess try to keep maybe a higher floor without limiting your ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, and that's who I am, good and bad, is like before we started conference play, our pitching had carried us. And our hitting was not what I know it's capable of doing. And now our hitting's starting to come around, and now our pitching has decided to kind of disappear in spurts. It's really just spurts. It's not really a whole game. And so I let them know that it's okay for us to both be really good at the same time. And, they're 18 to 22. They're working their tails off. I think the biggest thing is from a hitting, like, taking everything separate. So, like, hitting is very, are you getting better offensively? Are we able to, manufacture runs? Are we able to execute when we need to execute? Are we, bunting? Are we hitting? Are we kind of doing all of those things? And you have to, like, this game, there's so many games within the game. And so, like, part of that is that offensive game plan. Are we starting to get better in that area? 100%. And so you have to keep pushing that, though. Like, there's always things that we can get better. And they'll tell you, I'm never going to be like, oh, that was a great game. Like, no, like, good game, like, way to go. But here's X, Y, and Z that we can improve on. And if you're not always seeking to get better, then you're getting worse. And that's really my philosophy. If we're going to sit here and pat ourselves on the back and, like, that's not helping us win the next game. And so I feel like that, and I think that's what makes me tick, is that competitiveness, that how do I get better? How do we get more? How do I get more out of them? How do they get more out of me? I think that's how I kind of approach the game in all those aspects.
And I guess, not being able to do the math here, but 7 games and, whatever the number is for this past weekend going into this weekend.
Yeah.
In such a young group, is there any particular ways that maybe, or things that's helpful with in terms of their development, just getting that many reps, live action?
Yeah, I think, just being able to work on some of these things we need to work on and in game. I think it'll give us more of those reps. Obviously it's going to be a very light practice week and a heavy game week and lots of cold tubbing. So, they love to play games. I love to practice. So, they're probably in heaven right now. So I think for me, it's just, going out there playing, being with, your teammates, getting out there and compete, beating out on somebody else instead of getting their butts chewed on a little bit at practice. So, I think there's just a lot of good things. We're going to get hopefully some at-bats in that other people maybe not, haven't had those opportunities. I mean, Ayanna Coleman made me look like a genius this weekend. I'm not, but she had some great swings, some great at bats. So just like I said, they're just gonna keep getting better. If you really look at what Keely Williams looks like today compared to what she looked like even in January. Same with Amari Harper. I mean, Grayson Coleman's growing up. Riley Valent. I mean, you just kind of continue to look at them, and they're growing up because of the games. And so I'm hoping these next few games, like, we're gonna have some really good opportunities. We have nothing to lose this week, and that's my other message. Like, we got to compete our tails off these next 2 days, because if we look past them, I'll be really angry and just disappointed, I guess, would be a thing. And then, I mean, what do we have to lose this weekend? Let's go out and play ball and kick some butt, like play Aggie softball.
On that note, though, I know you're hyper-focused on A&M, but you look at the SEC's results, have been a wild string of results. Everyone beating everybody else.
Yeah.
Is that a message? Do you bring that message to the kids at all? Do they pay attention to that kind of stuff?
I'm sure they do. I don't really talk to them about it. And I think I've kind of noted, like, I don't listen to the noise. Like, I pretty much right now, it's like softball till about 2 o'clock in the morning. My kids come here. I say hi to my kids. I mean, that's just kind of my life. And obviously I know that 18 to 22-year-olds are not going to live that way. I'm kind of a weirdo. But I just want them to be focused on us and kind of what we're doing. And, like, it is the wild, wild west. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, anybody can be anybody in this game, and I truly believe that. And so the more I can get them focused on the task at hand versus worrying about all the other stuff that goes out in the world, like, the more we're going to be focused and, I think, on task for our games. But, at the end of the year, we'll look back and, be able to kind of assess where we're at. But I do think, like, we're fully capable of going out on the field and for 5 games this weekend or this week competing our tails off, and that's what I want to see out of us. 5 complete games of Aggie softball.
Can you also just touch on the fact that a little bit earlier you said about Ayanna and Keely and Riley and Amari and all of these players who you've seen substantial growth in between game 1 and now. Just kind of talk about what's gone into that, and then just the confidence you have in now having such a deep lineup that you can take anybody off the bench at any time, put them into pinch hit, and you've got a shot.
I really think I need to credit the upperclassmen, to be honest with you, because I feel like they've taken them under their wings. And so, like, Trinity Cannon, Rylan Wiggins, Julia Cottrell, Morgan Smith, they've done a really good job. I think growth happens when you have great leadership or great people in front of you that are kind of just going to work every day, doing their job. And we talked about this at the very, very beginning of this season. they've been very welcoming of me. And I think it could have gone one of two ways, right? Like, oh my gosh, Coach Ford, she's crazy. Like, she's making us change everything. We're practicing 2 times a day. Like, it could go sideways fast. And this group of players did not do that. And they really bought into us. And when you have that buy-in, then the freshmen don't really understand anything else besides, like, hey, figure it out. Like, come by and get on board. And they've done a really good job of, like, teaching them, like, pre-conference, this is what it's like, conference, and they talk a lot. And I think that has really contributed to the growth of our freshmen, of just them being able to be who they are. I think that's important. Like, be who you are, but compete your tails off and know that we have your back.
Kind of going off of that, how do you, I guess, look at their development and see kind of the light bulb going off for them that gives you the confidence to play them that I imagine coming into just college softball in general, you start off just wanting to prove you belong and you can hold your own, but then starting to show, like, I can not only be a good player down the road, I can be pretty good right now.
Yeah, I think, like, if you listen to Amari and Keely in particular, I think Keely was out here last week or something, and she was like, I was laughing inside because she said, I was on the field with so-and-so and on the field with so-and-so. And then she's like, I'm competing. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, those are the moments where you're like, yeah, I'm on the field with so-and-so, but I'm about to beat you. And so I think when they start to realize and understand that, even Amari, like, she will tell you guys, in the fall, I was on her like white on rice, like every single, Amari. And I was like, Amari, you know that I love you, but goodness gracious. And she's like, I'm going to get it, coach. I'm going to get it. And now I don't even have to say anything. Like, we look up, and we are not even saying a complete sentence, and she knows exactly what she did and what she needs to do to improve. And I just think, like, that willingness to learn and get better and to, like, that intuitiveness to just persevere through it. I think that's the one thing is, we'll call it grind, grit, but I really think it's that will to be great.
I know you don't want to look past, obviously,
Yes.
the games, but what kind of challenges does Tennessee?
I mean, they're a complete program, and I think they're going to be somebody that's standing at the end of the year. I think they're going to compete at a high level. They've got speed, they've got power, they've got 2 kids that can hum it in there pretty well. But so what? Like, at the end of the day, like, we're capable. I mean, we've faced high velo kids, we've faced high offensive teams. You got to go out and compete. And so like I said, I just want us to come out and play 5 complete games this weekend. That's really where my head's at. But I mean, Tennessee's a good team. I think they've taken all 3 of their first series, right? They swept 2, and then 2 of 3 have won. Yeah. So, I don't know. I just think it's a good opportunity. Like, I get excited about those. Like, if I could play Tennessee, Oklahoma, Georgia every single weekend, UCLA, whoever, like Oklahoma State every weekend, I would, because that's only going to make us better.
And then you've had 2 road series wins, but then you're swept at home. So, like, how do you kind of manage?
Oh, good Lord, yeah. The waves a little bit, yeah. I think we have been on the road a lot this year, and so I think we've found our way to kind of compete. We haven't been here at Davis very long, which is really odd for me to say, because I've always been, like, we've always been at home forever, and so I think there's some nervousness. There's some things that, we've had just a phenomenal showing of the 12th man out at the field and that atmosphere. And so there's a lot of pressure and awe and, those types of things when it comes to our Georgia series, and this Tennessee series is going to be the same way. And so my thing is, like, how can we be better than we were, better than the Georgia series? And so, like, the Friday, Saturday games, like, yes, those are gut-wrenching, but, like, we were competing. They were great games. I'm sure as a fan, they were great to watch. Obviously, we just need to get over the hump, a little bit. But for me, I hope that we learn from that Georgia series. We obviously learned from the Kentucky series, and then you just got to keep putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And so hopefully this weekend we'll get better and, take a couple games.
Are you still planning pitching-wise? Are you still going matchups based on whoever you're playing, or is it kind of like who's performing right now at the right time?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get Preston and Grace probably some innings these next couple of games. I do have my plan of attack for the series. I will always kind of approach the weekend that way. Sometimes it goes that way, and sometimes it's like all hands on deck, like you get warm, and you get warm, you know? So I think, you know, obviously we'll have a plan. We kind of know, okay, this pitcher's going to go through this, you know, one time through. If things are going well, she might go twice or 1.5. And at this point in the lineup, we're going to enter in X, Y, and Z. So I usually do that Mondays and kind of sit down and look at some of their swings and spray charts and our pitching. And it was pretty late last night because I had to prep for these 2 games. Yeah, we'll have a plan, and then just hopefully we can execute our plan. So, yeah, start praying for us. Yes.